This is the first video I've made on this channel that has absolutely nothing to do with electric cars, battery technology, or renewable energy. But this car reminded me of my younger years because I owned a car a bit like this. But when I saw this version of the car that I used to own, I couldn't stop laughing. I laughed uncontrollably for several minutes, and I thought, you know what? Maybe you guys will get a good laugh out of this as well. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. Great to see you. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome back, everyone else. And I hope you've noticed the picture behind me. That was my previous life back in the Viking days of the 10th century. And right after that photo was taken, I was actually killed on the battlefield. Anyhow, this car, which I actually used to own, a Ford Focus. It's kind of a Ford Focus, kind of a Ford Fiesta, sort of. But anyhow, I owned a Ford Focus and I really liked it. It was a great car. It had a lot of problems, which I didn't like. But the car itself, I loved it. It was the Z-Tech model, had the 2-litre 4-cylinder Duratec motor. Had no problems with the motor at all. The motor was great. I did manage to spin it a few times, not intentionally. When I was driving around the roads near my house, I lived up on a hill called Mount Dandenong. That's where my house is. And actually, to tell you a story about that, I've been renting that house out for a few years. And one of my neighbors called me and she said, "Did you authorize your tenant to cut down your deck?" I've got a huge deck at the front of the house, a really big deck, and it took me about 3 months to build it with my dad. And I said, "No, I don't know. What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, the tenant has cut down the deck." I drove up there and sure enough, the tenant had been cut down and had fallen down the hill. The guy had lost his mind from a bunch of drugs he was given by the doctor because he had some problems and the doctor had given him all these OxyContin and oxycodone or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, the doctor doped him up and he turned into a nutcase and just started cutting the house down. So, that's the story for another day. Anyhow, this car was spotted in North America or in the United States, and I just can't figure out what it is. I mean, clearly the front is a Ford Focus, and the back lights look like maybe Ford Focus lights as well, but the middle looks like it could be a Ford Fiesta. It's the most bizarre, cute, wacky, hilarious car I think I've ever seen. And when Car Scoops said it was comically compressed, well, I had to agree, and I just couldn't stop laughing when I saw this. If you've ever had the opportunity to travel to Richland, Washington, you may stumble across a Ford Fiesta that is truly unlike any other. This bizarre Ford Fiesta appears to have been roaming the streets of Washington for more than 8 years. Fortunately, no one's crashed into the back of it because, I mean, there's basically no crumple zone, and considering it's a modified car, I don't think it would go very well in an accident. Anyhow, images of this vehicle first surfaced on Reddit a few months ago. Recently, it was also snapped in Richmond. And if you go into Google Maps and look at a parking space near Howard Amon Park in Richland, you'll see the very same Ford Focus Fiesta thing is there. Now, originally, the Ford Fiesta was actually bigger than the Smart for 2. And in fact, the Smart for 2 was a fairly affordable car at the time when this car was on sale. So I'm kind of confused why it wouldn't just be easier to have bought a Smart for 2 rather than one of these. You know, modifying a car, it's obviously a lot of work to do this, and it can't be all that safe. Now, what I'm really curious to know is, what do you think this is? How do you think they've done it? Clearly, it's a combination of a Ford Fiesta and a Ford Focus. Maybe, I'm thinking, but I'm not really sure. Now, it looks to me like the wheelbase is only about 3.5 feet long, so just over a meter. And the overall length might be around 6 feet. Maybe just over 2 meters, possibly. Don't really know though. Now, I can't imagine the handling would be all that good considering that very, very short wheelbase. But who knows? Maybe it's great. However, for me, one of the most interesting aspects of the car, and something that really made me laugh, is the fact the roofline doesn't match up with the rear of the car. This results in a small hump between the two cars, between where it's obviously been kind of, rejoined together. Found on this bump is a sticker that says Carly. Clearly, Carly is the name of the girl that owns the car. As bizarre as the car is, it has to be a bit unsafe. I mean, obviously, it wasn't made like this. from the factory. So who knows what's been done to rejoin them together. I doubt there's any structural steel in there to make this thing actually hold up in a crash. Getting rear-ended while behind the wheel would be pretty disastrous, given that the original Fiesta Focus was probably modified in a garage or in a shop in order to become what it is today. You can imagine even in a pretty small crash, this thing could be just completely totaled and the person in the car could just be totally crushed. I mean, squish. I can just see it happening. Now, Carly, if you're watching this channel, please send me a message. I'll actually put my email address in the description below. Any of you can email me if you like. Don't do it if you want to slag me off, but if you want to say something cool, you got a cool story, let me know. Let me know your story. But Carly, if you're watching this video, I want to know, how did you get in possession of this car? What happened? What's the story behind it? Thank you for watching, my friends. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And as always, have a great day.